We need education. We need knowledge. I see knowledge as highlighted on your website, but that's the best way to fight the scamsters, to fight the fraudsters. Education and knowledge. And together, we will fight fraud and protect you all from being scammed. So and that's a promise in spite of the technology. So the goal today is we're going to scam proof your life. The scammers, remember, are working 24/7 and they're out to get you. They're out to get me. But as we know, you're here to be educated, to gain some knowledge. And I hope that this will do it for you. At least it'll start the process if you haven't already begun the process of scam proofing yourselves, as we all have, because the last few years, it's just gotten, as Linda said, it's gotten worse and worse as far as the scammers and fraudsters are concerned. $1 trillion involved in the scamsters scamming us of $1 trillion worldwide. So that's some figure to keep in mind. But this is a fact that I hope that we all will keep in mind. And it comes from an article that's in the AARP Fraud Watch website. And it's an article that we all should take to heart. It's under the title of 25 Great Ways to Stop a Scam. This is a picture of a young William Webster. Young William Webster went on to become the director of the CIA, director of the FBI, and he's 100 years old. Let's hear what William Webster had to say.
I served in World War II and Korea. I was a federal judge. I was the director of the FBI, director of the CIA, and I was the target of an elder fraud scheme. Don't fall for scammers' promises of money, friendship, love, or romance. These are criminals who want to take one thing, your money. You've worked hard. You've saved. Don't let criminals try to take that away from you. If you or a loved one have been affected by elder fraud, contact the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI or visit ic3.gov to file a complaint. If it can happen to me, it can happen to you.
And that's just another way of stating what we just saw in our first message about that we all can fall prey. He's a smart man. He's got 100 years of life behind him, but he can fall prey. So can you. But there's also another message that I wanted to impart right here, that we can't stop the scamsters and the fraudsters if we don't report these crimes. And report them to the police, report them to the FBI, the FTC, and the IC3, because that's the only way we can gather the information so that agencies that have a wider reach, that can go across international borders, can catch these scammers, because these fraudsters, these scammers, they're from a long way away. But I just want to show you how elder fraud, which Director Webster is over the age of 60, it can be very costly. And if you're not scam proof, it'll cost you more than $3 billion, more than $3 billion a year. Imagine the scamsters walking away with $3 billion from your grandmother, your grandfather, an elderly aunt, a neighbor that's over the age of 60. And that's all it is, elder fraud. So the key to scam proofing yourself is knowing when to spot a scam, knowing how to spot a scam.
How to detect a scam. Would you recognize a scam if you were targeted? Stay safe with these 3 questions to ask so that you won't be deceived. Is it far-fetched? Are you being offered an incredible deal? If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Does someone want you to do something fast? If so, that's a big red flag. Scammers typically create a sense of urgency and push you to act quickly before you can think things over or talk to someone you trust. Are they trying to scare you? Con artists often use scare tactics to get other people's money or personal information. They might claim that you owe the IRS and threaten you with arrest if you do not pay on the spot. Or they may say that a virus is on your computer and that all your records will be deleted if you do not pay now. If it sounds far-fetched, comes in fast, and is scary, it's probably fake.
Or simply put, you've got to see what's coming at you before you become scam proof. So spotting a scam is very, very important. And that's where the education and knowledge comes in. But also knowing that they will get you if you let your guard down, because they are practiced at this, the scamsters, the fraudsters are. So spotting the scam is very important, and letting other people know that, hey, I just got something on my phone here. It says that I owe a lot of money on past tolls that hadn't been paid to Easy Pass. But all I have to do is click on this link here, and that'll help me clear up the debt. Well, if I told that to somebody, they'll say, oh yeah, I did see that on my phone too. And sure enough, it becomes a news story. And then people know that that's a scam. So what are the top scams in the state of Maine? Imposter scams, ID theft scams, identity theft, and online shopping and negative reviews. Of course, ID theft is something that maybe sometimes you can't help. That's when somebody just steals some personal information. Now, con artists, scamsters will try to wheedle that personal information out of you via emails or text messages, but sometimes they happen because of a data breach. So an ID theft, sometimes you have to be in a reactive mode, and then you react to a situation such as a data breach. Or you can be proactive and take things. That's all being a scam proofing methodology. You can scam proof yourself, and you can do it all on your own. You don't need all kinds of fancy programming, applications, et cetera, et cetera. You can do it. But sometimes it doesn't help. It doesn't hurt to get a little bit of help. And you'll see as we go throughout this short little series of little presentation of slides that there are things that you can do, you can buy, or you can subscribe to that will help.
Have you gotten a phone call from yourself? It's weird, right? Scammers spoof their caller IDs to anything and anyone, so it looks like they're calling from the local police, the IRS, Microsoft, and yes, even your own phone number. Imposter scams are getting more and more convincing. I've heard them all, and I'm sure you have too. Tech support, IRS, grandparent, sweepstakes, and lotteries. Here's what you can do. First, be vigilant when answering the phone. You may not be able to tell right away if you're dealing with an imposter. Next, never give out personal information in response to unexpected calls. If you're getting pressured to provide information immediately, that's a big red flag. Finally, if you get a call from someone who says they represent a company or government agency, that needs to verify personal information, hang up and call back using a verified phone number from the organization's website or from your account statement. Learn more about these and other scams at aarp.org/Fraud Watch Network.
Something comes to mind that people often don't use, but people should use it. You get all these junk calls, these robocalls on your phone. Best thing to do is go into your recent file of phone calls, hit the little I button, and mark that call as junk and have it deleted. And the phone company usually will then get a report on those calls that you make, and they'll take it from there. Or you can buy yourself or get yourself subscribed to a robocall blocker application that you can put on your phone. But the best thing to do is use your good common sense and sometimes practice what we call a bit of a radical skepticism.
Valentine's Day is around the corner, and it's prime time for con artists to take advantage of those looking for companionship or relationships only to steal their life savings. Hello, I'm FBI Pittsburgh Special Agent in Charge Mike Nordwall. We've seen these criminals use every technique, including poetry, flowers, and other gifts to lure in their victims. These crimes can be financially and emotionally devastating, but you don't have to fall for their schemes. Let's take a few minutes to talk about how it starts. To avoid meeting in person, romance scammers often claim to live or work in other parts of the country or world. Eventually, when they feel they have gained the trust of their victims, these criminals will request money from them, oftentimes for a medical emergency, an unexpected legal fee, or some other false purpose. These criminals use well-rehearsed scripts that have been used repeatedly and successfully. They search dating websites, apps, chat rooms, and social networking sites in their efforts to build a relationship with the sole goal of accessing financial assets or personally identifying information. Romance scammers spend hours honing their skills and sometimes even keep journals on their victims to better understand how to manipulate and exploit them. The FBI cautions everyone who may be romantically involved with a person online to proceed carefully. Some helpful tips include being careful what you post online because scammers can use that information against you. If you suspect an online relationship is a scam, stop all contact immediately. Never send money to someone you met online and have not met in person. Lastly, if the individual makes plans to visit you but always cancels because of some emergency, that's a big warning sign. If you believe you've fallen victim to one of these scams, please contact our Internet Crime Complaint Center at ic3.gov.
What I think we learned from the FBI official is that there really isn't anything new under the sun of scammers. They're just persistent, and they'll take old scams, freshen them up, and reuse them again because it's easier to do that than to think of brand new scams, which has been coming up because of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence has turbocharged the scamming business, and we all should be aware of the what you can do to protect yourself from artificial intelligence, AI-driven scams. And it turns out that, well, AI will indeed enhance many of the old scams, and some of the old scams just involve being an imposter. They'll come up with what is called deep fake videos, and we all know that artificial intelligence is very good at coming up with a fake Tom Cruise or a phony George Bush or any other person that may want to try to wheedle some money out of you or wheedle something else for this scamster. And also, we know that AI is capable of doing incredible things with your voice. 3 seconds of your voice recorded by a scamster and then put through AI can come up with an incredible text-to-speech fake of your grandson or your granddaughter or Tom Cruise. So that's what we got on the horizon. But we can become scam-proofed with some very old and tested and tried methods. And that method is using your brain, using your common sense, using your ears, using your eyes, even though you can't trust your first impression. But if you look at some of these things closer, if you check things out by checking the origin of some of those pictures, graphics that you see, the video that you see, track down inconsistencies in the images. So what AI has done very well, and we know that in the short time the AI has been put into effect, it can make those emails that used to be so easy to spot because of bad grammar, because of terrible spelling. AI has really cleaned them up and has created emails and texts that you'd swear, if you didn't check it out carefully, came from a real human being.
Voice cloning, when a digital copy of someone's voice is used, is one of the latest artificial intelligence tools scammers use to steal money and personal information. Here is how you can avoid being scammed by AI voice cloning. Stay calm if you get a frantic-sounding phone call from someone claiming to be a family member or friend in trouble. Pause and take a breath and consider if it's plausible it may be them. Hang up the phone and call or text the person to make sure they are okay. Choose a safe word or phrase your family can use in a real emergency. If someone claiming to be a family member calls in a panic and doesn't know the word, it's most likely a scam. If you don't have a safe word, ask them a question that they would only know the answer to. Don't always trust caller ID because technology has made it easier for scammers to spoof any number. For more scam tips, go to aarp.org/Fraud Watch Network.
Another one is we really need to avoid, right now anyway, clicking on links in emails or texts, and importantly, not answering phone calls unless we're absolutely sure who's calling. And then finally, freeze your credit. If you're in a position where you're not going to be buying a house or buying a car or taking out a new credit card anytime soon, while your credit is frozen, nobody can use your information to open an account in your name, not even you. So you would have to unfreeze it in the event you needed your credit.
Change those passwords. Make them harder to remember. For goodness sakes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, not good enough, okay? Change those passwords. Get a password manager. Be smart about how you appear on the internet. And getting a credit freeze, while it's, some people say, well, isn't that extreme? Well, every time there's a data breach, think about what gets lost in a data breach. Well, probably your name, probably your email, and probably a whole bunch of passwords that scamsters armed with AI can try to figure out how they all work and then get into an account that you really care about, such as your bank account, your stock market account. It pays to do things that is easy to do. Yet 70%, I believe, is only the number of people. 70% have instituted a credit freeze, even though they know that a scamster or fraudster gets a hold of enough information to get into your credit report, and they can open up a brand new bank account, can get a new credit card, can buy a house. So put that credit freeze in and do it today.
Stop identity thieves in their tracks with a fast and free credit freeze. When your credit information is frozen, no one else can get a loan or credit card in your name. A credit freeze is one of the smartest ways to protect yourself from fraud, and it's one of the simplest too. While you can activate a credit freeze by mail or phone, the fastest and easiest way is online. Simply go to service.transunion.com and log in or sign up for a free TransUnion Service Center account. Once you're in, select Credit Freeze and then Add Freeze. Follow the prompts and you're done. Your credit will stay frozen until you decide to unfreeze it. If you're applying for a credit card or loan, you can lift your freeze for a short amount of time. It's easy and free to do. Just log in, go to Credit Freeze, and choose Temporarily Lift Freeze. You can also select Remove Freeze to remove your credit freeze completely. Freezing and unfreezing your credit information is always free and will never affect your credit score. Do it now with TransUnion and at the other 2 nationwide credit bureaus as well. You have nothing to lose and powerful fraud protection to gain.
Now, you'll notice that that video had all kinds of references to TransUnion. It's because I thank TransUnion for the borrowing the use of that video that's on their website. But the methodology, the simplicity of it all applies at Equifax and Experian also. But you don't have to do it all online. That's why I put up the screen here that has the telephone number to all those places. And once you have the freeze in effect, you can just leave it alone until, as they say, you want to go buy a car and you need a line of credit, or you need a new credit card, or you need anything that involves looking at your credit report. Then you can unfreeze that freeze that you put on, and it doesn't take long at all. What you will have to do when you apply for a credit freeze is have certain amounts of information available, such as your social security number, some dates involving your previous address, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And in return, the companies will give you a PIN number, which you will need to unfreeze your account. And if you don't have that PIN number, like anything else in life, you will be stopped from unfreezing it, because the scamsters would love to unfreeze all the accounts, all 30% of the Americans who have credit freezes. So join the 30%. And I believe that if you want to stop ID theft cold, as far as your credit report is concerned, the freeze is the best thing you can do to make yourself scam proof. As we saw before in that little list about the scams and the frauds that take place, identity theft is probably, well, it's easy to do. People can steal your ID very easily. People have told me, people have said, what do you mean? Protect my ID. Everybody has my social security number. Everybody has my email. Well, that may be true, but you can still protect yourself and still be scam proof. But it doesn't hurt to boost up your protection. And here's some advice from a guy who ought to know, Frank Abagnale, the man who was, they made a little movie about him, about Catch Me If You Can, when he was a teenager, and he was a scamster, but he got caught.
Of all the crimes, there is no question that identity theft is the simplest. Every 2 seconds, someone gets their identity stolen. But of all the crimes, it is also the simplest crime to protect yourself from being a victim of. Here are some easy things you can do. Lock your mailbox. Remove ID theft-worthy items from unattended parked cars. Regularly shred sensitive documents before disposing of them. And make sure you're using a micro shredder, one that shreds paper into confetti. Secure your smartphone by putting a password on it. Secure your computer by regularly changing passwords to reduce risk of online identity theft. Protect your personal information by not giving out your social security number unnecessarily. only for tax reasons, credit, or verified employment. When writing out personal checks, use a specialized gel pen. Mail thieves can't wash the ink and rewrite the checks. Use strong passwords to protect your financial accounts. Avoid phone scams by not giving out your personal information on the phone, through the mail, or over the internet unless you initiated that contact. To learn more and get other valuable tips on how to avoid fraud and identity theft, visit aarp.org/Fraud Watch Network.
I do have an update to what Frank said about check fraud. While it was true that you shouldn't use a ballpoint pen to write your checks, and using a gel pen makes it harder because the gel pen, the ink binds with some of the fibers better. It's hard to wash out with chemicals. However, the fraudsters have used AI now, and they have come up with another way of check fraud. They will indeed create in their computers a perfect replica of your check, your blank check. And they'll use those blanks and use those products that can come out of AI and all those manufactured checks. So it's very important then not to have those checks become missing from your mailbox. Mail your bills that you need to get paid with the checks. Don't just stuff them in the local little mailbox that you have on the side of the road. Take it directly to the post office so that you avoid the old-fashioned, low-tech way of people just stealing checks out of people's mailboxes, or out of, sometimes in the case of very radical, out of mailboxes that belong to the USPS. So, did you realize that a lot of people still get fooled by bad websites? They get fooled by all that weird information that they get on the Facebook. All the social networks have caused a lot of people to get defrauded on the websites, online.
Scammers love online shopping because the choices are endless for snagging unsuspecting customers. They draw you in with what seem like great deals, but deliver shoddy goods or sometimes nothing at all. Take these precautions to shop safely online. Be on the lookout for bogus websites, mobile apps, or social media ads. Many mimic trusted retailers with familiar logos and URLs that are easily mistaken for the real thing. Beware of bargain basement deals promising name brand merchandise at a fraction of the usual cost. If a discount sounds too good to be true, it probably is. If you're not familiar with a product or shopping site, look for online reviews and search for its name with terms like scam or complaint. If you can spot a scam, you can stop a scam. For more tips, go to aarp.org/Fraud Watch Network.
Scamsters and fraudsters sometimes realize that the human being, the human person, is the weak link in any effort to extract money. It's easier to con a human being than it is to get somebody to figure out how to deal with a bunch of computer code. So it's said. So scamsters are still using the term, I guess the term is called social engineering, to wheedle, to con a human being, which is the weak point, the weakest person, the weakest thing in that chain. Not everybody is scam proofed yet. So the FBI has started an awareness program. Basically says, slow down, and not smell the roses, but think about what you're doing, what you're about to do, and what you're about to give up. Pause and think. That should be part of your mantra and being a person who's scam proof. Pause and think, what is it going to cost you? A little bit of time? Because look who you're dealing with. You're dealing with organizations that not only exist in this country or in this state or in this city. Speaking about in the city, we've got reports here of people actually calling, pretending to be, they're imposters, pretending to be members of a local police department, the Brunswick Police Department, using real names of Brunswick police officers, calling people and then threatening them. So the old-fashioned way still works. Or people pretending to be from CMP, knocking on your door and saying, hey, give me some money, give me a gift card or two, and we won't shut down your power. The old-fashioned stuff, brute force, no AI involved at all. That stuff still works. So you've got to be always on the lookout. Not for these people that you see here sitting in boiler rooms or sitting in sitting in a cubicle with 100 other people making out calls. I mean, the latest scam that involves very, very high sophisticated technology. It's an extortion scam. It's a wrinkle on the email you might get saying, you know, if you don't pay me money or you don't do this, we're going to lock up your computer. And what's the doing this? It's extortion. Your camera has been on and we have been seeing what you've been doing, and we will make a video of you doing what you were doing, and then we'll send them to all your friends unless you do this. So that's a scam, an extortion scam that now has gotten to new heights. There are videos being sent out, and those videos, of course, are being threatened to be put on your Facebook page or whatever social media platform you have. It's there. So these guys are out there. So how does this all work? Well, how do they do it? Everyone, every fraudster, every scammer who's worth his or her salt will say you have to get your victim under the ether. Okay? That's the scammer's secret. Just remember, you're probably smarter than the scammer. Okay? You're probably more world wise to the means. You probably communicate better. But the ether puts you on that level playing field with the scammer. It puts you on your heels and knocks you off your feet. It gets you emotional. And that's what they want. They want you under the ether.
These are dangerous people you are on the phone with. Okay? Make no bones about it. I am a dangerous person on the telephone.
This is money that you don't have to pay back. This is free money.
Con artists can be clever,
charming, skilled, prolific with the English language. Take your hand off your pocketbook and open up your mind.
They can be brutal.
It's heartbreaking. It's hard for me to live with myself knowing what I've done to my family.
They know every button to push.
He would call every 20 minutes. His granddad got the money sent.
Every scam is different, but the trap is the same.
The crush or the kill is emotionally driven. It's not logic. If you apply logic to this concept, it's no. I'm not going to send you my hard-earned money.
We can get swept away by impulsive, emotional choices and arousal that is injected into the situation.
Dr. Robert Cialdini, professor of psychology and best-selling author, unlocks the secrets of persuasion in his book, Influence. According to Cialdini, If you're aware of how con artists use persuasive tactics to get you emotionally aroused, you're less likely to be a scam victim.
If you can see something coming from you from a distance, and you can undertake a refusal response, one that you've thought through, then you're going to be much more willing to say no.
Many people think they're too smart to be burned, that they can see the scam coming. But it turns out that regardless of education or social status, anyone can be tricked.
It's the people who think that they can handle these kinds of things who turn out to be most vulnerable.
And being vulnerable means you can be persuaded.
In the heat of the moment, when we're not thinking so well, we can get swept up. When you experience that emotional, that visceral arousal, stop yourself. That's your signal. Don't make a decision under those circumstances.
AARP is working to empower you with the best defense of all, awareness. That's why we've developed the Fraud Watch Network, an online resource to fight fraud at www.aarp.org/Fraud Watch Network.
So all we're trying to do here is basically instill a bit of common sense, knowing when you are being put into the ether. Sometimes the only way to avoid getting in the ether is to cut off contact. Don't talk. Don't communicate. Someone said, I saw this article. What if I decided to talk to this scammer on the phone? I'm smarter than the scammer. Well, you might be smarter at the time, but if that scammer puts you in the ether, then you may not be so smart. And you may give up a piece of personal information, such as an account number, such as where you're vacationing. Because remember, scammers are patient people. They don't need to strike right away. They put together pieces of information, and we'll get those pieces of information, put it in the central source of scammer information, where, by the way, it's people will pay for it. Scammers will pay for that information. The key here is don't be a victim, okay? Because being a victim sometimes means that you didn't recognize you were vulnerable in the first place. But watch out for that ether.
We're all susceptible to fraud at some point. Our 2021 Fraud Frontier study, which is one of the largest consumer fraud studies AARP has ever done, identified 3 critical factors that increase our susceptibility to fraud. We call them the 3 E's: emotion, environment, and exposure. Scam artists use our positive and negative emotions to perpetrate a scam. They want us to be in a heightened emotional state so that we aren't thinking clearly. Stress can also increase our risk for scams. Our study found that victims experience twice as many stressful life events as non-victims. Events such as job loss, the birth of a baby, or death of a family member can lower our defenses. Fraud victims simply encounter more scammers. Victims reported encountering an average of 58% more fraud attacks compared to non-victims and are more likely to engage in common consumer activities like purchasing a product or service in response to a TV ad that puts them on scammers' radar. But there are things we can do to lower our exposure to scams and reduce our susceptibility, like using a robocall blocking service and distinctly different passwords on all our online accounts. You can learn more about our research and how you can protect yourself from scammers at www.aarp.org/momentsnotice.
Remember, these are what the scammers, the fraudsters know about their victims if they're successful. They know their victims will get excited easily. Otherwise, it won't work. They don't even consider they're in a scam situation. They know it's a very friendly person. It's a person they're falling in love with. It's a person that will allow them to make an investment that will triple, quadruple their money so they can all live and go to the same country club together. They don't even consider it a scam. And they'll never ask the hard questions because there's trust. There's trust because of the words of the scammer. And they don't do their homework. They don't read the information that they have to have before they jump in with their feet first, head first, whatever. Okay. If the con doesn't see all this or enough of this, it won't move in. So you can't easily scam proof yourself by realizing that these are some of the behaviors you should not get involved with at all. And remember, asking a question is usually the best thing to do. Where are you? Where did you go for your vacation, Mr. Scammer, Ms. Scammer? And they'll come up with all kinds of fake pictures that they've stolen from the internet. Once you've got that in hand, then you do some research. Then you look for where the source of those videos came from, those pictures. You are now have taken power, and that's the power you have because you're starting to scam proof yourself. So, in conclusion, share what you've learned with your friends and family to help protect them too. Okay. If you can spot a scam, you can stop a scam. We reviewed the trends in scams and fraud, and we got inside the minds of the con artists, the scamsters. And we've talked to some good people who've given us some good pointers how to scam proof our lives.